What's going on, everyone? This is Derpy here, and welcome back to another Battle Pirates video. Today I have one of the biggest ones I've made, at least recently, and this is a pretty detailed video, and I'm really excited to be able to share everything I have going on with you. The one thing I do ask is that if this video is helpful for you, it's really useful for you to like this on YouTube, to share it with your Alliance members. I watched a really good video that told me what I needed to build for the new 3-month raid cycle, and if it really helped you and you like the content I put out and want to support the channel, click the join button below the YouTube video, and that will get your name added as a member to the end screen and help support the channel. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, I do have to give you a few disclaimers as I do get started because I want to make sure that I'm giving you the most accurate information and telling you where I'm getting all this. The first piece is that, unfortunately, I have not really been happy with the communication Kixeye has been giving out, both to me individually from those who do the community moderation, etc., and information in general on this new content has been very sparse, with questions being pretty slow to be answered. But that's why I'm making this video and giving you as much stuff as I possibly can in a pretty short, pretty easily able to digest format. The other thing is that a lot of this is subject to change. I actually don't know what Kixeye is doing and what they're thinking, so they might change something or I might have something interpreted slightly wrong. So this is going to be, I'll put any sort of corrections, etc. in a comment and pin that to so it'll be the first one you see there. Now, on a brighter note, I do have a list of future video topics that are going to go in-depth on every specific event, in-depth on the new hamster wheel, at least as we get that figured out, as well as a few other items. I do recommend that you actually check out some other content as well, be that from the Battle Pirates Crib Show, from TSM, or from the briefing out there for each of these events, as well as the designer diary update. All those are really good to read. Pull it up on your phone, etc. when you're on the bus. Read through that. Should take you a very low amount of time. I think I've included the information from all that in more detail and a more easily digestible format, but it is good to check out. Now, some of the information presented here we don't actually have all the way yet. 3 months from now, from when I make this video, we'll have a few of the unanswered questions answered. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. So this is the new monthly schedule for Battle Pirates. Kixeye will tell you at least that they don't really have it all figured out and don't release it until, say, the August calendar will be released on August 1st. I can tell you what's going to happen a little bit earlier, and it's not really a surprise. The schedule is going to work pretty much like this constantly. Now, VXP weekend might actually start the 3rd week of the month, or the 2nd, or the 1st. It doesn't really matter. The events will go in this order and then loop through this. Starting out with VXP weekend, this is happening at the same time as Vengeance. This is where you're going to be able to rank up your ships, at least your 4 normal standard raid hulls, and you're going to be able to rank these up in this event, which is pretty standard for this one. It's the normal PvE hull that you're going to be using, as well as likely a Conqueror target as well. There's also a Vengeance event, which will be pure PvP, more on that later, and it's kind of one of the replacements for Bounty. The other thing that goes on is, at least on the current calendar, the important TLC, the one that gives you 5 upgrade tokens and 8 build tokens for the current cycle PvE hull, is going to be in this duration. It's possible it ends up moving to Conquest, so check the most updated info, but you do want to make sure you do this TLC for this every single time. It's the one TLC that I do every single month. Okay, moving on to the next week, this is going to be Strike. Strike is the replacement for Pillage. It's a very, very similar event, and we've already had the first Strike. This is going to use only the current PvE hull, so Garrison has been rolled into a normal PvE hull, more on that later with the Forsaken mission, and we just use one fleet the entire time. There's going to be an auto target level 50 and a driving target level 51. Interestingly, because you're using the normal hull, the first time you use it, it's actually going to be about 3 weeks after you've earned it before the first raid, so the first strike is, at least allegedly, going to be tuned for 4 ships without the flag. You have to build 4 Pathfinders before the first strike and use them in that before you've actually had it in the first raid. So don't be surprised if people's hulls are not completely built by the time that strike comes around there. but it's going to be the replacement for pillage, and the pillage leaderboard prizes are rolled into strike as well. Following strike, in what we have conquest. Now, previously it went pillage and then raid. Now we have the replacement for pillage, strike, and then conquest. Conquest is going to be the new way that Kixeye drips in new PvP content into the game. New defenders, new conquerors, etc. are most likely going to show up in conquest. Now, conquest is going to be Kixeye employee bases. It's going to be conqueror targets on the map that are just environment targets. So that's where we have a mix between PvE and PvP. You're going to use, say, a PvP fleet you built for base hitting your barons, your huntsmen, etc., your conqueror holes. You're going to go hit map targets with them and earn points. It is a raid using your player versus player ships. That's the best way I can explain it. It's a replacement for KEBs. Now, Kixeye, in my view, at least incorrectly, marketed this event as the premier PvE event in Battle Pirates. This is not a real PvE event, it's not a real PvP event either, and it's not even the premier one because that is still the raid. So this is Kixeye employee bases, and you'll get new PvP content from this event using your PvP ships. If you only care about the standard skirmish, assault, siege, garrison, you can completely ignore conquest and not do any of it. You won't get new conquerors, won't get new defenders. You don't need to worry about this event at all. Now, the very last event is likely unchanged, except there is a new 3-month raid cycle, which I am getting to, and this is the raid. This is where you use the current PvE hull, which will be something like the Pathfinders and the Dreadnought. Now, the Dreadnought is really complicated, and we'll have a future video dedicated to just that one. It is a special new hull class where there's just one ship in the fleet, and no, it's not a mega ship. It is kind of like a capital ship, a ghost crawler, a proto-nemesis, etc., that you're driving around with pretty much just that one ship in the fleet, and only that one ship in the fleet for Dreadnoughts, and are hitting the same PvE targets that your Pathfinders are using. You're going to use this one in the raid, and again, more details on that coming up in a little bit. We have a 3-month raid cycle, and the first raid, similar to the first strike, will be tuned for 4 ships because there is no flagship that you can get until the first raid using your 4 ships. Now, the other thing that goes on, and this is a little wonky because we're still actually tuning into it, so again, information might change, is the Forsaken mission is going to be continuing throughout the 3 non-raid weeks, so VXP Weekend, Strike, and Conquest, where you're going to use, at least when we get into the swing of it, last season's, possibly 2 seasons ago, but likely just last season's PvE hull to earn prizes for the next PvE hull. So it's my assumption we're going to use Pathfinders to earn essentially limited tech, likely chests, for the next ship after the Pathfinder. So you have that to look forward to, getting heavy weapons, CICs, etc. in the Forsaken mission as you normally did throughout these 3 weeks. Now, this might seem like a lot of content, but Kixeye is assuring you that it's not. They have simply taken a bounty, which used to happen, instead of Conquest and Vengeance, split that into 2. They have Conquest here and Vengeance here. The first question you might have when you see this is, okay, what ship should I be building? You're still confusing me. Well, this is the best answer I have for you at the moment. And this is sort of a checklist in time of what you need to do so that you are prepared. And again, this is the video that you can share with your Alliance members if they're confused. Before the last raid of every season, you need to save 2 weeks worth of build tokens. So that is from the Forsaken mission. What you want to do is 2 weeks before, you open your chests and make sure you don't overflow. Open the legendary first, then the 2-day, and then redeem the 1-days, etc. Open your chests and leave them as tokens, but this is important, don't spend them. The next week, which will be the week right before the raid, open your chest or just redeem your chests, do not open them and hold on to them. This way, as soon as the raid starts, the raid 3 of the previous season, you have 1 week's worth of Forsaken mission tokens in token form, 1 week worth in chest form that you can open and build 2 or 3, maybe even 4 ships basically instantly, at least just the blank holes. So the second thing you want to do, or the other thing that's important, is you'll want to earn relevant Forsaken mission prizes, similar to how we're earning limited tech right now. There's going to be a version of that, which again requires a more in-depth, complicated video to keep this one kind of short for you, that you want to make sure you're staying on top of. Now in Raid 3 of the previous season, so this is the similar to Raid 2 of the old way it used to go, is you want to earn the new PvE hole. We'll have a replacement for the Pathfinder, which will be the next one in line after Skirmish. That could be Siege, that could be Assault, that could be Garrison. Kixeye hasn't told us the exact order. And you're going to build 4 blank ships. You're likely going to have lower upgrade levels than previous years or previous versions. You're not going to be able to get like 2 ships at U3, 2 ships at X1. You're going to want to build 4 at U1, 4 at U2, etc. in that month, or half month rather, between the raid and the first strike. Right after the raid, as usual, when you have your 4 blank holes built, you're going to rank them up. Partially build them if you can, put on a few weapons and an engine, possibly a range extender if it's a missile ship or a cannon ship. Range extenders are useful for the VXP weekend targets. Otherwise, you can always save up a ton of salty dogs and rank them up. VXP weekend has historically been where we can see a quote-unquote preview. It is no secret anymore that Kixeye runs a preview server for a few people there. I've been on them in the past. And this is the general public preview of the target style. So we expect to, for instance, redeem a hole, build a few blanks, and see a few people. Apex Predator used to do it, hasn't done it much anymore. Coin out an entire fleet, go through the target, and hit a few things so that we could actually see what the target looks like. We're expecting that to be the same way here. After VXP Weekend, which again has Vengeance at the same time as it, we have Strike. Strike is going to be using the current PvE hole, so again, the first strike you only have 4 ships, to earn the themed Dreadnought. Now a Dreadnought, not to be confused with the Breacher Dreadnought or the DNX or the regular Dreadnought, is a new whole class. This whole class, as I already explained, is just one single ship that you're going to be able to evolve, and you have to earn tech for it, a weapon, a heavy weapon, etc., armor, specials, all that new stuff there. This is a themed Dreadnought, so the Pathfinder's one is called the Majpgrabijn, something similar to that. I probably could have figured out the pronunciation. We're going to have a different one for every single ship. The Pathfinder will have one, the next Siege will have one, the next Garrison will have one, the next Assault will have one that pairs up with it. We're just going to use that in the same style of targets, at least that's my assumption, that we do for the normal hull. We're going to use that ship in the raid. So when you're considering building things, you either need to use the tokens from Strike and from the week after that, which is going to be the Conquest one. In those weeks, you're either going to need to use those tokens on the Dreadnought, and there are tokens for the Dreadnought you can earn in Strike. You need to use your regular FM tokens that you've been continually redeeming every week, either on the Dreadnought or on the upcoming flagship in the first raid. So those are the things that you need to kind of consider with that one there. If you are able to save tokens, you can use them on the flag. If you're a little bit behind, you likely want to build the Dreadnought. Now, in the first raid, you're going to use your 4 normal PvE holes and the Dreadnought to earn the flagship, and you'll be able to, at least Kixeye has said, get VXP tokens for the flagship in this raid. So theoretically, you could save a week or 2 worth of tokens and have a partially built Pathfinder fleet, really bad Dreadnought, but you'd be able to build the flag in Raid 1. The first raid is allegedly not tuned to that, but it will be helpful to have more ships as it generally is. So now that you have a good understanding of what to build, and yes, there'll be a more detailed video on just this one with some examples, some specifics, we're going to want to talk about the new events in a little bit more detail. The first one of these is Strike. So you can see an example of the Strike in July of 2024, where you had to use the Pathfinder in the 1551 target for 1,000 points and a 2,000 point set bonus to earn tech here for the Dreadnought. This fire control array, Gatling gun, etc., all this stuff here is for the Majpgrabijn or Majpgrabijn, whatever you want to pronounce it, it's fine by me, and you're going to earn tech for that as well as limited chests. Now, I will have a video explaining these limited chests in a little bit more detail, but you want to get all of them is the best answer I have for you. That Strike, it's the replacement for Pillage. The Pillage leaderboard prizes will be rolled into Strike. You'll get a 1-day token for just participating as of an upgrade for the Pathfinder in this case. Conquest is going to be the replacement for the Kixeye employee bases. This is using the Huntsman, at least in this case, in the top tier. It is unfortunate that they have only 2 targets designed for the same ship. I would prefer to see the Baron used for 1 and something else like that. It's going to be hitting a lot of the same target over and over. It's just like a raid, which I'm pretty disappointed with. And that's going to be redeeming prizes there to get a new Conqueror ship, the Tsunami in this case. Could be a new Defender, could be a few other things out there. Should only be PvP stuff, as well as limited tech like the concussive engine for what I'm assuming is a concussive Tsunami using a concussive Gatling gun. That is the replacement for the Bounty KEBs. It is Conquest. Now here's the part that a lot of you are likely caring about more. After those 2 weeks of stuff, we have the raid. In the first raid, the prize is going to be the flagship. Seems like not a ton of stuff, but hey, that's what the prize is. We're going to use the new fleet of 4 ships plus the Dreadnought to actually get this flagship. In the second raid, I'm assuming we're getting X1. It's possible there's a few more things coming out there. It's also possible I'm wrong about this and X1 comes out in raid 1. Kixeye, like I said, hasn't really answered questions related to this one. Check the briefings as they come out there. I'm guessing X1 will be in raid 2, although it's possible they throw it into raid 1. If that is in raid 1, I have no clue what they're going to put in raid 2. Could be random new Defender stuff sometimes, which I think they're getting away from and are putting all that in Conquest. It could be something else, we're not quite sure. Now in raid 2, you're going to use a full fleet, hopefully upgraded to U3 counting the flagship, and your Dreadnought may be evolved up to E10. After raid 2, you're going to go into the same cycle with the XP weekend, followed by strike, followed by conquest, followed by the raid, etc. The same thing I showed you previously is going to be between raid 1 and 2, raid 2 and 3, raid 3 and 1. In raid 3, you're going to earn the next PvE hole, so the third time we use the Pathfinders, we are going to get the replacement for them, which will be the next one in the cycle of Siege, Skirmish, Assault, Garrison, etc. Not quite sure on that order yet. That's the new 3-month raid cycle, and that's what you want to take away from this one. In terms of Vengeance, this is going to be the new premier PvP event, allegedly. The screenshot I have up here is all the information Kixeye has given us. It's very limited. We don't have a lot out there. So I'm expecting it to be for bragging rights and skins and medals and such. There are also allegedly going to be changes happening to medals sooner rather than later, although that's been said before. Don't expect new PvP tech, at least I don't expect new PvP tech to come out in this particular event. I'm expecting all of that, be that Defender, Conqueror, etc., to come out in Conquest. This is pure bragging rights. You might think that's kind of dumb, but I guess people spend a lot of money for that, so sounds good to me. They can help keep making the game going. Now, there is a possibility for Shipwrecks and King of the Nexus to make their appearance in Vengeance. We don't expect them. They're not actually in Conquest. It's possible they're in Vengeance. It's possible they're removed entirely. Shipwrecks is actually something I'd like to see get a little more love, although I doubt that will happen because even though I thought they were good from a game design perspective, they never really took off. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about related to these events, and I'm going to have a more detailed video on each one of these, is the Forsaken mission. So the one thing we do know is that Garrison is no longer the only Forsaken mission hole. We're going to use every single one of our ships in the Forsaken mission on a rotating cycle. Now, I'm making some assumptions or guesses as to what that will be. I'm assuming there are going to be 3 top-tier targets replaced monthly. So we'll have the 618, 623, and 615, whatever. One of those will get taken away and a new one will get put in there, which will use the newest version. I'm assuming this will be, the next replacement will be for the Pathfinder. As soon as the Pathfinder is done with the first raid, I'm assuming it's going to go into the Forsaken mission. It's possible that could happen earlier, possible it could happen even 3 months later. Don't entirely know at that point, but that should extend the longevity of the holes to at least 6 months, if not a year, to be used in the next raid, which should be pretty interesting. I'm also expecting we get rid of half tiers because of that. And I'm also assuming it will be only normal ships and not dreadnoughts. It will just be Pathfinders and not the Amageddon, however you pronounce it. And I'm also assuming that the prizes in the Forsaken mission, rather than being something like a limited heavy weapon or limited armors, are going to be the new limited component system, which will be using chests with common, uncommon, and legendary items, which again requires a separate video on them. It's going to be very similar to how it currently works, but the prizes will look slightly different, and we still expect to have ship build tokens, which are super important to get in the Forsaken mission. Now, this has been a pretty long video already, so I do want to thank you for watching up to this point. I do have a few things to share with this one. I have some upcoming videos that I'm going to in more detail related to a few of the things I've talked about here. Everything you need to know about dreadnoughts, dedicated videos on Conquest, Strike, Vengeance Raid, and BXP Weekend, a video on the new limited component system with rarities and chests, a detailed walkthrough of what to build and when, which is the hamster wheel, how to catch up for new and returning players, and I'm also going to update a lot of the guides that I've been making. Some of you may have used my upgrade timer screenshot, essentially, which shows you how long each upgrade took for U1 through X1. These times are going to change. The effective build times should likely remain the same. These times will change, as will the Dreadnought evolutions. I'll get more guides, etc., which I will link in the YouTube description of my future videos when I have those out there. A few of you checked out my build stock, which is great, and that will continue to be around with these other things that you can look for in the YouTube description, again, totally for free. And I also want to tell you that your regularly scheduled BT programming, at least for me, will return soon with videos on the Raid, Bounty, Forsaken Mission, etc. are going to be back to normal now that the game is changing a little bit here, should provide some more interesting content to jump back into. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to the channel members whose names appear on the end screen now. They're helping make videos like this one possible, and is why I'm still around here making Battle Pirates videos for you. If you want your name added to the YouTube description, you can click the join button below the YouTube video, and I'll get it up on this end screen as well as, again, in the description. With that said, and until next time, this is going to be Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.